Hey y'all, welcome to Most of It, where I talk about most things that I find interesting. Today, we'll be talking about one of the most overlooked primarchs, Jaghatai Khan, also called the Warhawk. So without further ado, let's get into this. Jaghatai landed on the planet Jagoras as a baby, but unlike most of his brothers, his planet was actually kind of a pleasant place to be, with such features as lush green plains, tall white mountains, and deep blue seas. The residents of Jagoras weren't half bad either, at least for 40k standards anyway. There were many clans of warriors who would often battle other clans over land and resources. The young Primarch landed in a region known as the Empty Quarter, called that for its barren lands. He was found by a man called Ong Khan, leader of a small tribe called the Talskars. The man saw the child as a gift from the gods and gave him the name Jaghatai Khan. The young Primarch did as Primarchs do, growing and eventually conquering his respective planet, establishing himself as a fierce, honorable, and ruthless warrior with a swift and deadly fighting style. After destroying or uniting all the planet's tribes, he established a relatively peaceful empire, which he had no interest in running, instead allowing the people to return to their preferred ways of living. Eventually, the Emperor, as part of his great crusade, arrived on Jagoras, and upon seeing and recognizing him to be his father, the Khan dropped to his knees in front of his generals and pledged his service to the Emperor. The Warhawk was given the 5th Legion of Space Marines called the Star Hunters. The Primarch sought to assimilate the mostly Terran troops into Jagorian culture and tactics, so as they were choosing recruits from the planet, the Star Hunter tactics were completely overhauled, the Khan teaching them to favor speed and maneuvering above all. After a few battles, their legion name was changed to the White Scars in honor of the ritualistic scars of the Tall Scars warriors, which they shortly after implemented. The Khan and his legion quickly gained a fierce reputation as he fought in the Great Crusade, mostly keeping to himself except for his friendships with Horus Lupercal, Primarch of the Luna Wolves, and Magnus the Red, Primarch of the Thousand Suns, also gaining a disgust for Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's Children. When the Horus Heresy began, the War Master expected to easily sway the Khan to his cause, but Jaghatai had no desire to change loyalties, staying true to his father. However, at the beginning he was conflicted, initially holding his forces back until he could ascertain the truth of things. Eventually, Rogal Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists, sent a message for all loyalist legions to return to Terra, which the Khan followed, reluctantly abandoning the Space Wolves to fight the Alpha Legion alone. The War Master also attempted to order Jaghatai to attack Leman Russ, Primarch of the Space Wolves, but all his attempts were ignored. Above all, Jaghatai sought answers for what had led to these attacks before he could completely choose a side. For a while, the White Scars were bogged down by an Orc and Warp Storm blockade set up by the Alpha Legion, eventually managing to break through and heading to the source of all the troubles to hopefully find some answers on the planet Prospero, homeworld of Magnus the Red and the Thousand Suns Legion. Once on the planet, the Khan initially found nothing but rubble and ghosts of slain Thousand Suns, until he found a projection of his brother Magnus, who implored Jaghatai to choose a side in the conflict, ending in the projection being shattered by the Khan's sword. Soon after, Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard, also appeared to Jaghatai, attempting to convince his brother to join the traitor's cause, which Jaghatai also refused, stating that while the Emperor was indeed a tyrant, Horus had become a mere tool of the Chaos Gods, which he viewed as much worse. Mortarion didn't like that and began a duel with his brother, and the two were pretty evenly matched. The Khan was faster, but Mortarion had more endurance. Eventually, as the two legions began to clash in space, Mortarion withdrew. Over the course of 4 years, the White Scars waged a brutal hit-and-run attrition campaign against the traitor forces. With their way to Terra blocked by warp storms and traitor blockades, the Khan became more determined than ever to return to defend his father, eventually finding an ancient device known as the Dark Glass Artifact, just before being cornered by the Death Guard. As Jaghatai prepared to settle the score with his brother, his chief Stormseers are the White Scars librarians, essentially Psyker Space Marines, Targutai Yasugi, sacrificed himself to the device, using it to open a portal into the webway. Jaghatai, refusing to allow Yasugi's sacrifice to be for nothing, fled with his forces into the webway. Once aboard his ship, it was boarded by demons, including a Keeper of Secrets, which Jaghatai slew. They soon arrived at Terra, meeting with Rogal Dorn, Sanguinius, Leman Russ, and Malkador the Sigillite to discuss strategy, Russ soon after departing to face Horus directly. During the siege of Terra, Jaghatai, seeing the doomed fate of the Imperial Guardsmen outside the walls, decided to lead a charge over those walls with his sons, sweeping through the traitor forces, with the Khan eventually being overwhelmed by the sheer numbers, being wounded by warp-tainted blades and falling ill for the first time in his life. Surrounded by heretic Astartes, Jaghatai was saved by Sanguinius, who withdrew with his brother back to the palace. The Khan's charge had a secret purpose, however, discovering that the Dark Mechanicum was constructing massive siege engines outside the palace walls. As the outer walls fell, the Khan announced his intent to retake the Lions Gate spaceport to slow the rate of traitors and reinforcements, and to give Rabute Gilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, a place to land his forces upon arrival. Upon doing so, Jaghatai once again ran into Mortarion, who had ascended to become a demon prince of Nurgle. The traitor Primarch beat back the Khan, who was nearly defenseless. However, Jaghatai found a crack in his brother's armor, appealing to his pride, scolding him for being weak and giving in to the powers of the warp, while he had remained strong and true to the Emperor. Mortarion flew into a rage, losing his tactical sense, which the Khan took advantage of, launching a flurry of dizzying attacks that overwhelmed his brother. Eventually, the battle ended with a badly injured Jaghatai impaled on the end of Mortarion's death scythe, which he pulled himself along the length of in order to get within striking range of his brother, decapitating him and banishing him back into the warp. Jaghatai's sons discovered their father's near-dead body and sought to take him to Malkador, who, despite the Khan being, by all mortal standards, dead, tried to use his psychic powers to heal him. Initially, he believed he had succeeded, before realizing the Emperor himself had been the one to heal his battered son. The Khan would survive, though it would take a long time for him to awake. There honestly isn't too much about the Khan after awakening. We know he led some of his sons in the Great Scouring, bringing justice to many traitors, and getting into some battles with the Dark Eldar, which is where his sons reported that he was lost within the Webway in pursuit of the Xenos. It is believed that the Khan is still alive, continuing his battles elsewhere, and will return to his sons when they need him the most. Jaghatai Khan is, I'd say, the most underrated Primarch. His story was one of honor and independent thinking. He knew what the Emperor was, and while not agreeing wholeheartedly with it, still knew it was the best of the available paths. He waited until he had enough data to make a call on who to support, and once he had enough, jumped in with both feet in support of the Imperium. I mean, the guy drug himself down the length of a massive scythe in order to kill his brother. What a Chad! His actions indicate he is one of the most reasonable Primarchs, which shows in the actions of his legion. I find the Khan's story really compelling, and hope we will see more of him in the future. If you want to learn more about Jaghatai Khan and his legion, I'd recommend reading the books Scars, Path of Heaven, and Jaghatai Khan, Warhawk of Chagoris. Well, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and comment down below what you'd like to see me cover next, whether Warhammer related or not. With that said, see y'all later.